Shankar Guha Niyogi knew his life was in danger. A charismatic trade unionist, Niyogi had refused to go into hiding, but he agreed to move and set up a new home and office in Bhilai, an industrial city in the mineral-rich region of Chhattisgarh. Early in the morning on September 28, 1991, two men on a red Suzuki motorcycle pulled up alongside Niyogi's building while he was sleeping under mosquito netting in a room on the ground floor. One of the men propped open a window, leaned in, and shot Niyogi 6 times. Then he fled with his companion on their motorcycle. Niyogi was rushed to a nearby hospital, but every bullet had pierced the back of his head or his neck. He was killed at the age of 48, leaving behind a wife and 3 children. Within hours, hundreds of distraught people turned up at the morgue in Bhilai. The next day, Niyogi's body was returned to his family in the mining town of Dali Rajara for cremation. More than 100,000 mourners, grief-stricken, outraged, and stressed, poured in from across the Indian heartland. They came from factory towns and labor camps, slums and villages, farms and forests. The hills of the surrounding region were populated by millions of Adivasis, members of India's so-called scheduled tribes, whose lives had been measurably improved by the decades-long work that Niyogi was doing in the region. The local press described him as the uncrowned king of 10,000-odd workers in the Durg-Bhilai industrial belt. Indigenous leaders called him the Gandhi of Chhattisgarh. His death marked an end to one of the most hopeful chapters in the history of the Indian labor movement. In the weeks and months prior to his assassination, Niyogi had been leading a strike among the workers of a major steel plant, part of a wider campaign for living wages, more permanent jobs, and the right to unionize. His ideas and methods had grown into a mass movement, which came to be known under the umbrella organization called the Chhattisgarh Mukti Morcha, or the Chhattisgarh Liberation Front. What made the Chhattisgarh Mukti Morcha so captivating, and also, one imagines, so threatening to industrialists and the politicians in their pocket, was the fact that Niyogi established common ground among factory workers, farmers, peasants, the rural poor, and tribal communities who were ancestral to the area and had, for centuries, considered the mountains of central India not just sacred, but the physical embodiments of their living gods. If Niyogi led a strike in a steel plant that succeeded, then the Steelworkers Union would contribute to a campaign for the rights of indigenous tribes. If that campaign worked, then the tribes would throw their weight behind an agitation by local farmers, creating a support structure across communal lines that was both unprecedented and politically powerful. Niyogi also did the one obvious and necessary thing that almost no other labor initiative or civil rights group of that era thought to do. He made women and their issues, including childcare, maternity benefits, and protection from domestic violence, central to the movement. The Chhattisgarh Mukti Morcha went far beyond the basics of workers' rights to address issues of health, education, and leisure time. After Niyogi's death, his wife Asha, herself a miner, publicly accused 9 prominent industrialists of ordering his assassination. 6 years later, in 1997, 5 people, including 3 of the industrialists, were convicted of conspiracy to commit murder and sentenced to life in prison. The gunman, an assassin for hire who was implicated in a smattering of local crimes, was given a death sentence. It was the first time that factory owners in India were found guilty of killing a labor activist. It was considered a judicial triumph, a rare example of justice being served, and the acknowledgement of a species of crime that was known to happen but hard to prove, and even harder to pin on men of importance. But then, a higher court overturned the convictions in 1998. In 2005, the case went to the Indian Supreme Court, which acquitted the industrialists and everyone with them of the crime. Only the gunman, thought to have carried out the killing for a very small sum of money, was jailed for life. The labor struggle in Chhattisgarh soon entered a vortex of escalating violence among paramilitary forces, corporate interests, and local insurgents.
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it. at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.